Have you ever wanted to take some simple stuff and turn it into something, really special? Something that just fills a room with a scent that's all you and gives off that warm, cozy glow? Well, today we're diving deep into the art and science of candle making. So yeah, let's get started.
That's the big question, isn't it? I get it. It can feel a little intimidating. You hear all this talk about different wax types and temperatures and curing times, but don't you worry, that's exactly what we're about to break down, step by step. Okay, so every great project, every great creation, it all starts with getting prepped. Before we even think about melting a single flake of wax, we gotta gather our tools. Trust me, getting everything ready beforehand makes the whole process so much smoother and honestly way more fun. Here's your checklist, your shopping list, basically. You've got the obvious stuff, right? Wax, wicks, and some cool heat-safe containers. But the real magic, the precision, comes from the other tools. A double boiler for melting everything safely, a digital thermometer and a scale for total accuracy, your favorite fragrance oils, and then these little things like wick stickers and holders that make a huge difference. All right, your first big decision. What kind of wax are you going to use? Soy wax is just fantastic for beginners. It's really easy to work with, it burns super cleanly. On the other hand, paraffin is the more traditional and usually cheaper option. Look, there's no wrong answer here. It really just comes down to what you prefer and what you're making. And now we get to the most critical variable of all, temperature. You're going to want to treat this chart like your secret weapon. See, you'll melt your wax to a specific temperature, about 180 degrees Fahrenheit for soy. But, and this is super important, you don't add the fragrance right away. You let it cool down to that temperature range you see here. Why? Because if you add your scent when the wax is too hot, you will literally burn it off. Poof! All that amazing smell will just vanish into thin air. So how much fragrance do you actually add? Well, that's called the fragrance load. It's just a percentage of your wax's total weight. The source we're looking at recommends a sweet spot of about 8% for a fantastic scent that isn't overpowering, but definitely, makes a statement. This is exactly why that digital scale we talked about is so important. Okay, with our tools all lined up, we're moving into the heart of the process, the science of the melt. Now, before we even think about pouring, we have to prep our container. This part is a must-do if you want a professional-looking candle. Your container has to be perfectly clean and totally dry. Then you're going to use a little wick sticker to anchor the wick dead center on the bottom and a holder to keep it perfectly straight at the top. A centered wick is absolutely crucial for an even burn later on. Okay, let's put it all together. Here's the play-by-play. First, you melt the wax safely in your double boiler. Then you take it off the heat and let it cool, watching that thermometer like a hawk. The second it hits that magic temperature, you add your measured fragrance and you stir, gently, for a full 2 minutes. This step is so critical because it makes sure the fragrance oil actually binds to the wax molecules. Then, and only then, you pour, slowly and steadily, right into your prep jar. So you've poured your candle. Now we move to the final, and maybe the most overlooked stage, patience and perfection. This is where a good candle becomes a truly great one. I'm going to save you some potential heartache here. Here's how to avoid some of the most common mistakes. Let your candle cool slowly at room temperature. Whatever you do, do not rush this by putting it in the fridge or freezer. That quick temperature drop will cause cracks and all sorts of problems. If you do end up with a few little imperfections on top, a quick blast with a heat gun can smooth them right out. After a full 24 hours, you can finally trim the wick to a neat 1/4 inch. Your candle needs to cure. Just letting it sit for 1 to 2 weeks allows the fragrance and the wax to fully bond on a molecular level. All that waiting pays off, I promise. You're rewarded with a much stronger, richer scent when you finally go to light it. And there you have it. You've followed the science, you've respected the process, and you've taken this journey from simple flakes of wax and a few drops of oil to a finished, beautiful creation that's just waiting to be lit.